Chapter 8 The Armstrong Kidnapping Case. They found Imbach finishing an omelet. I thought it best to have lunch served immediately in the restaurant car, he said. Afterwards, it will be cleared and Poirot can conduct his examination of the passengers there. In the meantime, I have ordered them to bring us three some food here. An excellent idea, said Poirot. None of the three men were hungry, and the meal was soon eaten. But not till they were sipping their coffee did Imbach mention the subject that was occupying all their minds. Eh bien, he asked. Eh bien, I have discovered the identity of the victim. I know why it was imperative he should leave America. Who was he? Do you remember reading of the Armstrong baby? This is the man who murdered the little Daisy Armstrong, Cassetti. I recall it now, a shocking affair, though I cannot remember the details. Colonel Armstrong was an Englishman, a V.C. He was half American. His mother had been a daughter of W.K. Vanderholt, the Wall Street millionaire. He married the daughter of Linda Arden, the most famous tragic American actress of her day. They lived in America and had one child, a girl whom they idolized. When she was 3 years old, she was kidnapped, and an impossibly high sum demanded as the price of return. I will not weary you with all the intricacies that followed. I will come to the moment when, after the parents had paid over the enormous sum of $200,000, the child's dead body was discovered. It had been dead for at least a fortnight. Public indignation rose to fever point, and there was worse to follow. Mrs. Armstrong was expecting another baby. Following the shock of the discovery, she gave birth prematurely to a dead child, and herself died. Her broken-hearted husband shot himself. Mon Dieu, what a tragedy! I remember now, said Imbach. There was also another death, if I remember rightly? Yes, an unfortunate French or Swiss nursemaid. The police was convinced that she had some knowledge of the crime. They refused to believe her hysterical denials. Finally, in a fit of despair, the poor girl threw herself from a window and was killed. It was proved afterward that she had been absolutely innocent of any complicity in the crime. It is not good to think of, said Imbach. After 6 months later, the man Cassetti was arrested as the head of the gang who kidnapped the child. They had used the same methods in the past. If the police seemed likely to get on their trail, they killed their prisoner, hid the body, and continued to extract as much money as possible before the crime was discovered. Now, I will make clear to you this, my friend. Cassetti was a man, but by means of enormous wealth he had piled up, and owing to the secret he had over various persons, he was acquitted on some technical inaccuracy. Notwithstanding that, he would have been lynched by the populace had he not been clever enough to give them the slip. It is now clear to me what happened. He changed his name and left America. Since then he has been a gentleman of leisure, traveling abroad and living on his rents. Ah, quel animal! Imbach's tone was redolent of heartfelt disgust. I cannot regret that he is dead. Not at all. I agree with you. Tot même. It is not necessary that he should be killed on the Orient Express. There are other places. Poirot smiled a little. He realized that Imbach was biased in the matter. The question we have now to ask ourselves is this, he said. Is the murder the work of some rival gang whom Cassetti had double-crossed in the past, or is it an act of private vengeance? He explained his discovery of the few words on the charred fragment of paper. If I am right in my assumption, then, the letter was burnt by the murderer. Why? Because it mentioned the name Armstrong, which is the clue to the mystery. Are there any members of the Armstrong family living? That, unfortunately, I do not know. I think I remember reading of a young sister of Mrs. Armstrong's. Poirot went on to relate the joint conclusions of himself and Dr. Constantine. Imbach brightened at the mention of the broken watch. That seemed to give us the time of the crime very exactly. Yes, said Poirot, it is very convenient. There was an indescribable something in his tone that made both the other look at him curiously. You say that you yourself heard Ratchet speak to the conductor at 20 minutes to 1? Asked Imbach. Poirot related just what he had heard. What occurred? Well, said Imbach, that proves at least that Cassetti, or Ratchet, as I shall continue to call him, was certainly alive at 20 minutes to 1, 23 minutes to 1 to be precisely. Then at 12:37 to put it formally, Mr. Ratchet was alive. That is one fact at least. Poirot did not reply. He sat looking thoughtfully in front of him. There was a tap on the door, and the restaurant attendant entered. The restaurant car is free now, monsieur, he said. We will go there, said Imbach, rising. I may accompany you? Asked Constantine. Certainly, my dear doctor, unless Poirot has any objection. Not at all, not at all, said Poirot, after a little politeness in the matter of precedence. Après vous, monsieur. Manon après vous. They left the compartment.